The cream linen envelope sits on my glass desk like an accusation. Heavy stock paper, gold embossed return address my parents never skimp on presentation. I trace my finger over my name, written in my mother's perfect penmanship. Marion Blake. Not Miss Blake, the name my employees use with a reverence that still startles me sometimes. I don't need to open it. Annual Blake family reunion, scheduled with military precision 11 months in advance. Same insufferable questions awaiting me. When will you find a real job? Have you considered coming to work for your father? Are you still wasting time on that little website? A sharp knock rattles my office door, the one my team knows to use when something can't wait. Come in. Diane bursts through the doorway, iPad clutched against her chest, eyes wide. In 3 years as my executive assistant, I've never seen her sprint. Miss Blake, Forbes just announced their next cover. My stomach drops. When? 5 minutes ago. It's all over Twitter already. She turns the iPad toward me. The mock-up glows on the screen. My professional head, the one I reluctantly allowed for our investor deck against Forbes' red background. Marion Blake, the quiet force behind a $1.3 billion creative tech platform. My hands shake as I take the iPad. 12 years of careful anonymity shattered in a headline. Who leaked it? My voice sounds distant to my own ears. Legal is already on it. The reporter had sources from last month's Series D investors. I nod, mind racing through implications. Dad's investment firm associates subscribe to Forbes. Lucas, my golden child brother, probably has a digital alert set for industry news. My mother's friends devour business gossip like chocolate. Get the team together in the conference room, 20 minutes. Diane nods and disappears, leaving me alone with the reunion invitation and the destruction of my carefully constructed facade. Last Thanksgiving, Dad's mahogany dining table stretches between us like a battleground. Marin, darling, Mom's voice carries that particular note of concern she reserves for me. It's been, 7 years with your little art website? Maybe it's time to consider something more substantial? I take a careful sip of wine. $400 million in private valuation, burning a hole in my tongue. It pays the bills, Mom. Barely from what you've told us, Dad says, not bothering to look up from his plate. Lucas smirks from across the table. Some of us had big news today. Got that promotion to head of acquisitions. Congratulations, I murmur, cutting my turkey into perfect squares. Your brother understands business fundamentals, Dad says. When you're ready for a real job, we'll find something for you at the firm. I smile and nod, the same practiced expression I've perfected since graduation. The one that hides my empire. Cold glass presses against my forehead as I stare out at the Manhattan skyline from my corner office. 42 floors up, with a view most executives twice my age would kill for. Behind me, the modern workspace hums with activity. 120 people building something extraordinarily vision, brought to life through their talent. The legal structure took months to perfect. Shell companies, privacy agreements, strategic use of my initials instead of my full name. All to keep Marion Blake separate from MB, Innovations in Public Records. A gentle tap at the door frame. Lisa, my chief legal officer, waiting with my executive team. We need to talk about the Forbes piece, she says. The 5 of them file in my carefully selected inner circle, the only people who know the full truth about who owns this company. The concern on their faces mirrors the tightness in my chest. What's our response? Asks Marcus Maiku. I turn from the window, decision crystallizing. It's time they knew. I'm done hiding. My closet tells 2 stories. On the left, modest blouses, sensible slacks, the costume I wear to family gatherings. Clothes that say, struggling artist, barely making rent. On the right, Armani, Chanel, Burberry. Power dresses and tailored suits I wear in boardrooms, where men twice my age listen when I speak. I stand before the mirror in silk and cashmere, studying my reflection. The woman my family believes they know versus the CEO I've become. No more pretending, I whisper to myself. From my nightstand, I take the advance copy of Forbes, delivered by courier this morning. The weight of it feels significant in my hands. I slide it deliberately into my designer handbag. The town car idles outside my Tribeca loft. My driver, sensing my mood, remains silent as I settle into the back seat. The Blake residence in Greenwich, I tell him. The car pulls away from the curb, carrying me toward a family that's about to meet me for the first time. 12 years ago, I stood on the NYU quad clutching 2 diploma cases to my chest like shields. Finance and fine arts, a combination that raised eyebrows among classmates and professors alike. Spring sunshine warmed my face as I searched the crowd for my family, spotting my mother's peach dress and my father's stern profile near the fountain. Marin, my roommate Ellie, barreled through the sea of black gowns, camera dangling from her wrist. "We did it!" I hugged her with one arm, still holding my diplomas. "Can you believe it?" "So tonight," she whispered, "we celebrate, and tomorrow you pitch them, right?" The business plan. 42 meticulous pages tucked into my bedside table drawer, each spreadsheet triple-checked, each projection conservative yet promising. My hands trembled just thinking about it. What if they hate it? The question slipped out before I could catch it. Ellie squeezed my shoulders. "They won't. This platform could change everything for independent artists. And you've got the numbers to prove it." My father's investment firm specialized in recognizing potential. Surely he'd see it in me. The Blake family dining room stretched before me like a courtroom. Mahogany table polished to mirror shine, sterling silver candlesticks reflecting tiny flames. My father at the head, mother to his right, Lucas slouched opposite me with his perpetual smirk. Places we'd occupied for 22 years, never changing. "Well, Marin," my father said, folding his napkin precisely, "let's see this grand idea Lucas tells me you've been working on." I placed my leather portfolio on the table, hands steadier than I expected. It's a digital platform connecting artists directly with buyers. No middlemen, no galleries taking 40% commissions. "Another art website?" Lucas interrupted, reaching for his wine. "Aren't there already dozens?" "Not like this." I opened the portfolio, revealing charts tracking the emerging online art market. Those platforms treat artists as inventory. Mine treats them as partners. I walked them through my Visiona searchable marketplace with commission structures benefiting creators, authentication protocols, and pricing algorithms balancing market rates with fair compensation. Words flowed easier with each slide, my passion building. Until my father's hand sliced through the air. "This artsy nonsense won't ever turn a profit." The words landed like a gavel, final, damning. I stared at him, breath catching. "Did you even look at the projections?" My mother touched my wrist. "Honey, wouldn't you be happier at your father's firm? Lucas loves it there." "She's too sensitive for real business," Lucas added, his voice thick with false concern. "Come back when you've got a real business plan, sis." This is a real business plan. I flipped to my financial projections, 5-year revenue forecasts meticulously charted. I've identified market gaps, established differentiation factors, calculated acquisition costs. "That art degree really did a number on you," Lucas chuckled. My father leaned back, drumming his fingers against the mahogany. "What are you asking for exactly?" I met his gaze directly. $300,000 for 30% equity. The laughter started with my father, a sharp bark that transformed into a full-throated roar. Lucas joined in seconds later, shoulders shaking. Even my mother covered her mouth, poorly disguising her smile. 300,000? My father wiped his eyes. For a website where people sell finger paintings? I gathered my papers with numb fingers, tucking them back into their folder. The room tilted slightly, my breakfast rising in my throat. "No," my father said, amusement still coloring his voice. "Absolutely not. Not even a consideration?" My voice sounded distant, as if coming from somewhere above me. "Invest in a fantasy instead of a business?" He shook his head. "That would be irresponsible." "We're trying to help you, Marin." My mother's voice dripped with the condescension she reserved for family charity cases. You're just not business-minded like your father and brother. The word no echoed in my head the entire drive back to my apartment. Cardboard boxes surrounded me, each labeled in thick black marker. Kitchen. Books. Winter clothes. I folded another sweater, mechanical movements requiring no thought. My childhood bedroom felt foreign now, plastered with someone else's achievements and dreams. The lease papers for the tiny Queen's apartment sat on my desk, signed yesterday morning. $900 a month for 400 square feet and a bathtub with mysterious stains. All I could afford on my savings. I placed the note on my perfectly made bed, taking some time to figure things out. Don't worry about me. 6 hours later, I unlocked the door to my new life. The apartment smelled of old cigarettes and cheap paint. A radiator clanked in the corner, fighting against November chill. I unpacked my laptop first, setting it on a cardboard box, serving as desk and dining table. The business plan seemed to glow on the screen as I opened it again. They can believe I'm struggling, I whispered to the empty room. I'll prove them wrong. Red digits on my microwave clock read 3:47 a.m. My eyes burned, back screaming from hunching over code for 18 hours straight. But the platform framework lived. Crude and unpolished, but breathing. I clicked through the upload portal, testing the transaction sequence for the 5th time that night. The confirmation page flashed on screen a sample painting successfully listed, tagged, and priced. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma, one of 5 artists who'd agreed to test my beta version. Just saw your message. You're seriously doing this? Count me in. A week later, Emma's abstract composition whirls of blue against fractured gold became my platform's first sale. $750 transferred directly to her account, minus my modest 12% commission. I printed the transaction receipt, thumbtacking it to my wall. $90. Not enough for groceries that week, but something far more valuable. Proof. Coffee scalds my tongue as I prepare for my 5th investor meeting this week. The Starbucks near Grand Central buzzes with morning commuters while I guard my corner table, spreadsheets fanned out like battle plans. My laptop shows the pitch deck I've refined after 27 rejections. 28 might break me. The investor, venture capitalist with salt and pepper hair and a Brooks Brothers suit, checks his watch as I walk him through projected growth metrics. His eyes glaze over when I mention digital art licensing. Interesting concept, he says, closing my folder before I reach the financial projections. The market seems limited. The rejection letter lands in my inbox before I make it back to my Queen's apartment. I pin it on my wall alongside the others. 28 neat rows of, unfortunately at this time, and not the right fit for our portfolio. My eyes drift to the family photo in the corner, Lucas's promotion celebration at the country club. My absence carefully explained away. Marin's little website keeps her so busy. If they only knew. 3 years in, the platform reaches 10,000 artists. I celebrate with instant ramen at my desk, scrolling through user testimonials. Sold my first commission through your platform last week. Quit my day job. This is all I do now. Found clients in Europe. Never thought my work would travel farther than I have. A knock interrupts my scrolling. Katie from accounting, one of 5 employees, crammed into our first real office, stands in my doorway. The space boasts water-stained ceiling tiles and temperamental heating, but the rent doesn't make me flinch when signing the monthly check. The advertising agency called, she says, trying to contain her smile. They want exclusive rights to 20 artists for their new campaign. Which agency? Larson and Pine. The agency that rejected my application for a junior design position 2 years ago? I lean back in my chair, permitting myself 5 seconds of satisfaction before nodding. Send them our premium client contract. 7 years after that first rejection at my parents' dining room table, I stand at the window of our Soho office. Employees fill the open floor plan, graphic designers, developers, account managers, my creation breathing and growing beyond my wildest dreams. My phone buzzes with a text from my mother. Thanksgiving dinner next Thursday. Lucas bringing his new fiancée. Dad wants to know if you need money for a cab. I slip the phone into my pocket as Marcus, my newly hired COO, Approaches with champagne and plastic cups. $12 million valuation. Not bad for a little art website. He's the only person who knows about my family, about their dismissal of everything I've built. The investors wanted 51%, I remind him. But settled for 23%, he counters, handing me a cup, leaving you with controlling interest and a very impressive personal stake. Nobody knows it's me, I say, watching the bubbles rise in my cup. The legal structure makes sure MB Innovation stays separate from Marin Blake. Does that bother you? Not getting credit? I think about last Christmas, my father patting my shoulder with the same pitying look he's given me for years. Anonymity has its advantages. So Marin, Lucas says, swirling expensive bourbon in his glass at our parents' anniversary dinner. Still playing with that art website? What's it been now? 9 years? Something like that. I push food around my plate, the designer watch hidden beneath my sleeve worth more than his monthly salary. You know Dad's firm is expanding. We could use someone to manage our social media. Nothing fancy. Just schedule posts, answer comments. Mom touches my arm. Think about it, honey. Health insurance. Regular hours. I'm managing, I say, the understatement so profound it nearly makes me laugh. Dad doesn't look up from cutting his steak. The offer stays open, when you're ready for stability. I nod, silent. My company just closed a deal with Sotheby's to authenticate digital art. But they'll never know. 3 years before the Forbes cover, I sit alone in my office, scrolling through financial news. A headline catches my eye. Blake Investment Group faces liquidity crisis. My father's company legacy he built teeters on collapse. The article estimates 200 employees could lose their jobs by month's end. The family group chat buzzes with emergency meeting details. My name isn't mentioned once. That night, I pull company filings, industry reports, anything publicly available. The picture forms clearly. An $8 million shortfall after a major client pulled funds unexpectedly. Not insurmountable with the right investor. But traditional banks move too slowly, and private equity would demand controlling interest. I call Lisa, my chief legal counsel. I need a shell company created. Tonight. For the art acquisition in Milan, she asks. For a different kind of acquisition. And Lisa? Total confidentiality on this one, even from the executive team. 3 days later, Blake Investment Group announces secured bridge financing for Meridian Capital Partners, a shell company that exists solely on paper and in my attorney's filing cabinet. The confidentiality agreement stipulates no contact between the lender and Blake Investment Group, beyond quarterly repayment confirmations. I watch from afar as my father holds a company-wide meeting announcing jobs saved, crisis averted. His employees applaud, while he takes full credit for securing unconventional financing through personal connections. I permit myself a single satisfied smile. Today, my company's valuation hits $1.3 billion. My personal net worth just under $400 million sits, mostly in company equity, real estate, and strategic investments. 120 employees fill our Manhattan offices. Thousands of artists build careers through our platform. Museums in 4 countries showcase digital art we've helped authenticate and preserve. And still, at family gatherings, I'm poor Marin with her struggling art website. Until Forbes decided otherwise. I stand in my conference room, facing my executive team, the only people who know the full truth. They've seen my silence at family gatherings, heard snippets of conversations where relatives offered to help me find something stable. They understand what the magazine cover means. What's our response? Marcus asks. I think about the $8 million my father never knew came from me. About the thousands of artists finding their voices through my platform. About the quiet satisfaction of building something extraordinary, while those who should have believed in me first continue to dismiss me. We confirm the story, I say. It's time they knew. Have you ever helped someone who didn't know it was you? Is anonymous generosity more meaningful than public recognition? Share a time when you gave without expecting credit in return. The Blake family estate looms before me, Georgian columns rising like sentinels against the evening sky. I gripped the steering wheel of my town car a moment longer, watching cousins and aunts I haven't seen in years sweep up the limestone steps in tailored suits and cocktail dresses. My outfit, a simple navy sheath dress, reveals nothing of my wealth except for the vintage Cartier watch at my wrist. One indulgence, one tiny crack in my facade. I take a deep breath and step out into the cool evening air. Marin, you made it. My mother's arms encircle me briefly, her Chanel number 5 wrapping around me like childhood memories. She steps back, appraising me. You look healthy, dear. Her favorite euphemism for you could stand to lose weight. I swallow the retort rising in my throat. Thank you, Mother. You look well. My father appears behind her, distracted by something on his phone. He glances up, nodding. Marin. Then back to his screen. Not a businessman tonight, a father. Yet business always comes first. Did you hear about Lucas's new acquisition? Mother steers me toward the house. 30 million. The board approved it unanimously. Lucas materializes on cue, champagne flute in hand. Baby sister. Still keeping that little art website afloat? His smile doesn't reach his eyes. I closed the Peterson deal yesterday. You probably saw it in the journal. Congratulations, I murmur, scanning the room. 3 cousins by the fireplace are whispering, their glances darting my way, then quickly away. The Forbes cover. They've seen it. The dining room gleams with crystal and silver. Place cards separate me from my immediate family mother's subtle management of the family hierarchy. I'm seated between Aunt Judith and my cousin's new husband. The strategic placement of the unsuccessful relative. Conversation flows around me like water around a stone. Mutual fund performances. Vacation homes in the Hamptons. Lucas's voice rises above the rest as he details his latest corporate raid. Strip the company down to its profitable divisions. The board didn't see the value hiding in plain sight. I sip my wine, watching the performance. For 12 years, I've sat at this table, playing the role they assigned me. Tonight feels different. The weight of the magazine in my handbag presses against my ribs. The clink of silver against crystal cuts through the dinner chatter. My father rises, glass held high. I'd like to say something important tonight. The table quiets immediately. Even Lucas stops mid-sentence. 3 years ago, Blake Investment Group faced a crisis that nearly destroyed us. A liquidity crunch that threatened 200 families who depend on us. His voice drops, uncharacteristically vulnerable. We exhausted every traditional option. I set my fork down, pulse quickening. Then, when all seemed lost, a mysterious investor stepped in. $8 million wired overnight. A bridge loan that saved everything we built. My throat tightens. The confidentiality agreement prevents me from knowing who this angel investor was. He raises his glass higher. But whoever you are, you saved 200 families. We are eternally grateful. The silence that follows feels electric. I push back my chair and stand, the legs scraping against hardwood. Every head turns. That was me. My voice carries clear across the table. I wired the funds. My father freezes, glass still raised. I meet his eyes directly. I just didn't feel like hearing your lecture again. Forks hover in midair. My mother's wine glass tilts dangerously in her suddenly slack grip. Lucas's face drains of color, making his teeth look unnaturally white in his frozen smile. My father stutters. You? That's not. How would you? I reach into my handbag, the weight of 12 years of dismissal fueling my movements. The Forbes magazine slides across the polished mahogany toward him. There's something else you should know. His eyes drop to the cover. My professional headshot stares back at him. Marin Blake, the quiet force behind a $1.3 billion creative tech platform. 1.3 billion? The words croak from my father's throat. A collective gasp ripples through the room. My mother's wine glass finally slips, red liquid blooming across white linen like a prophecy. Lucas grabs the magazine, knuckles white. This can't be right. That little art website, I say softly, the one you've been asking about for 12 years. The silence in the room has weight, substance. Years of judgment and dismissal crystallized in a single frozen moment. I remained standing, watching the reality sink in. The daughter they believed was struggling has been quietly building an empire. The idea they laughed at now employs hundreds. The investment they refused has returned thousands of times over for someone else. For the first time in my adult life, my family sees me. The phone hasn't stopped ringing since the reunion. 2 weeks of sudden interest from people who barely acknowledged my existence for a decade. Your father called again, Diane says, handing me a stack of messages. 3rd time today. I flipped through the pink slips. Dad, Mom, Lucas, 3 cousins who never remembered my birthday, and an aunt who once told me art degrees were for people without real ambition. He says it's urgent, Diane adds. Funny how 12 years wasn't urgent, but 2 weeks is. I dropped the messages into my drawer, along with the others. Anyone else? Your mother left a voicemail. She's crying. Of course she is. Mom's tears always available when her reality is disrupted, never when her children needed comfort. She said she was just worried about your stability all these years. Diane's tone makes it clear what she thinks of this rewriting of history. I nod, remembering Mom's precise words at the reunion. Why didn't you tell us, darling? We would have celebrated every milestone with you. The same woman who once suggested I get a sensible job with benefits because my little website would never provide security. Dad moved from disbelief to calculation in the space of 10 minutes. I watched his eyes shift from shock to assessment, measuring my worth in a way he never bothered to before. By dessert, he'd claimed he always saw the potential in me. Lucas was fastest, smoothly transitioning from stunned silence to, I knew you had it in you, sis, before the coffee was served. Classic Lucas, rewriting the narrative to position himself favorably regardless of facts. My phone buzzes with a text from my cousin Jennifer, who suddenly remembers our special bond from childhood. The same Jennifer who ignored my fundraising email 6 years ago for the artist grant program. Miss Blake? My assistant's voice pulls me back. Your 3 o'clock is waiting. I straighten my Armani jacket. Thank you, Diane. A month passes. The family texts have slowed from a flood to a trickle. I've answered enough to maintain civility without surrendering boundaries. Spring sunshine streams through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my corner office. The view of Manhattan stretches before me, a testament to 12 years of persistence. The intercom buzzes. Miss Blake, there are 2 gentlemen here without an appointment. They say they're family. My stomach tightens. Names? Richard and Lucas Blake. Dad and Lucas. Here. Now. I take 3 measured breaths. Send them to the blue room. Tell them I'll have someone with them shortly. Through the glass walls of my office, I watch Dad and Lucas follow my assistant. Their heads swivel, taking in the modern workspace. The 60 employees visible on this floor alone, the awards lining the corridor walls. Lucas reaches out to touch the glass trophy from Fast Company. Dad's eyes find my nameplate on the corner office door. I text Marcus, my COO. Family ambush. Blue room. Need eyes. He responds immediately. On it. I give them 20 minutes, just long enough to marinate in the reality I've built without them, then check Marcus's assessment. They have a pitch deck. His text reads. Looking for investors in a new art licensing platform. Asking for meeting with MB Capital Rep. My investment arm, the one they clearly don't realize is me. They specifically mentioned $2 million seed funding, Marcus adds. A tech platform for licensing art. The irony burns cold in my chest. I'll handle it. I text back. The blue room falls silent when I enter. Dad half rises from his seat, recognition and confusion battling across his face. Lucas freezes mid-sentence, the polished pitch dying on his lips. I take the head chair, the one they'd left empty, for the imaginary investor they'd planned to impress. Gentlemen, I smooth my skirt beneath me. I believe you're pitching to me. Dad sinks back into his seat. Lucas's Adam's apple bobs as he swallows. Marin, Dad recovers first. We didn't realize. Dedham Capital's mine? Clearly. I gesture toward their presentation, still projected on the wall. Please continue. I'm interested in your concept for... I glance at the title slide, Artworth Licensing Platform. Lucas fumbles with the clicker. It's actually, we were hoping to discuss with the investment team first before. I am the investment team. I say simply, this is my company. All of it. The silence stretches between us, taut with unspoken recognition. Dad leans forward. We've been developing this concept for several months. The market research indicates substantial growth potential in the digital art licensing sector. His voice steadies as he slips into familiar pitch territory. We're seeking $2 million in seed capital for a projected 30% equity stake. Exactly what I asked from him 12 years ago. Impressive, I say, opening the leather portfolio before me. I've reviewed similar proposals in this space. The market is certainly active. Hope flickers in their eyes. I slide a folder across the table. Before we proceed, I wanted to share some relevant background information. Dad opens it, Lucas leaning close. Inside, printouts of every dismissive email, every belittling text, every family dinner conversation where they mocked my little art project. Transcripts I'd had Diane compile from my meticulous records. 12 years ago, you said I wasn't business-minded. My voice remains conversational, neither bitter nor triumphant. You said digital art platforms would never turn a profit. You said I needed a real job with realistic expectations. Dad's fingers hover over a printout of his own email. Stop wasting time on pipe dreams, Marin. The adults are trying to build something that matters. Today, you're pitching me your dream. I close my portfolio, and I'm saying no. Lucas starts to protest, but Dad silences him with a hand on his arm. For once, my father looks his age. I helped you once, I continue. That was for the employees. 200 families who didn't deserve to suffer for management's mistakes. I stand, smoothing invisible wrinkles from my skirt. I'm not your safety net. Not anymore. Marin. Dad's voice lacks its usual authority. We're family. Yes, I agree. We are. And this time, you're on your own. I walk to the door, then pause. The weight of a decade of silence finally lifting from my shoulders. Good luck with your venture, gentlemen. Diane will show you out. My corner office gleams with morning light as I review our Spring Arts grant selections. The platform I built now supports thousands of artists, with a team of 120 people who share my vision. No Forbes cover or Industry Innovator Award on my shelf means as much as these 20 new creators will fund. The committee is waiting for your approval, Miss Blake. Diane says from the doorway. Tell them it's perfect. Last night, I hosted my executive team at my actual home and not the modest apartment I kept for family visits. We drank good scotch and talked until midnight. These people who believed in me when blood relatives wouldn't spare a dime. My CFO raised his glass when our latest valuation hit headlines. My marketing director showed baby pictures and asked for advice. They're the family I chose. The weight of pretending has lifted, leaving me lighter than I felt in 12 years. I sleep better in my Tribeca loft, no longer rehearsing modest responses to inevitable questions about my struggling business. My closet contains no more costumes, just clothes that reflect the woman I've become. A cream envelope sits on my desk bearing my father's law firm letterhead. For 5 days, it's remained sealed, a ticking bomb I've circled but never touched. The memory of our last encounter, his face when I rejected his business pitch, keeps my letter opener at bay. Coward, I whisper and slice it open. My father's handwriting carries decades of authority-precise strokes that once signed billion-dollar deals. I read aloud, needing to hear the words in real space. I was wrong. 3 words I never expected from William Blake. You didn't just prove us wrong, you proved yourself right. I've spent 30 years identifying potential, yet missed it sitting across my own dinner table. I'm sorry it took so long to see it. My hands tremble. Outside, Manhattan continues its endless movement, unaware of seismic shifts in my private world. Your mother and I would like to know the daughter we failed to see. In my private workshop where I still create art when spreadsheets overwhelm me, I find a simple black frame. The letter slides in beside another document, the first email rejection from my father's assistant. Mr. Blake regrets he cannot provide funding for your project at this time. Two bookends to a journey I never planned. Thanksgiving arrives exactly 1 year after the confrontation that changed everything. The invitation sits on my counter for weeks before I decide. This time, there will be boundaries. I drive my own car up the winding driveway to their Greenwich estate, wearing clothes that reflect my actual taste. The emerald silk blouse costs more than I pretended to make in a month during previous gatherings. My mother meets me at the door, her eyes taking in the woman I've become without the disguise of struggle. "You look wonderful," she says without the undercurrent of concern. "Marin." My father stands in the entryway, respect replacing the dismissive glances of previous years. Not warmth, but something more valuable: recognition. Lucas approaches cautiously, humility reshaping his once smug features. "Your latest acquisition was brilliant," he offers without his usual competitive edge. "Your funding program for student artists sits changing lives." My mother says, genuine interest replacing performative concern. She asks questions about selection criteria instead of when I'll find a real job. From across the room, I watch them, these blood relatives, adjusting to truth rather than comfortable fiction. The path from dismissed to dominant stretches behind me, but the view ahead matters more. I catch my reflection in the antique mirror that's hung in the dining room since my childhood. The woman looking back stands straight, unburdened by secrets or others' expectations. Success was never about revenge. It was about finally being seen for who I truly am.